Long ago, during the era when the Silk Roads stretched from the distant east to the Mediterranean, it was said that camels leisurely crossed the deserts, carrying the fragrance of spices, fabrics, and silks. Amidst ancient China, a great empire arose, known not only for its military strength or wealth but also for its vibrant and prosperous culture. Rich in achievements in poetry, art, and philosophy, this was the Tang Dynasty, a dynasty that inscribed its name in human history, not only with the sword and power but also with the brush of artists and the hearts of poets. The early years of this dynasty began with a power struggle when Li Yuan, a noble from Shaanxi, rose in rebellion to overthrow the declining Sui dynasty. Li Yuan was not only a skilled military leader but also a compassionate man. He understood that to win the hearts of the people and establish a strong dynasty, he could not rely solely on force. Thus, when he ascended the throne under the title Emperor Gaozu of Tang, he began rebuilding the country with benevolence and lenient policies, hoping to bring about a period of peace and prosperity. However, the journey of building an empire was never simple. Li Yuan laid the foundation, but the one who truly brought the Tang dynasty into its golden age was his son, Li Shimin, who would later be known as Emperor Taizong of Tang. Li Shimin was not the initial heir to the throne, and his path to power was neither easy nor without conflict. He was a valiant warrior, a talented leader with grand aspirations, but also a son with the responsibility of safeguarding the empire. The conflicts among the princes of the Li family, combined with intrigue and plots, ultimately forced Shimin to eliminate his two elder brothers to protect his family and secure the throne. It was a ruthless yet necessary decision, and history would not forget the tragic Battle of Xuanwu Gate, where Shimin seized power, eventually ascending to the throne to become the emperor who led the Tang dynasty to the height of civilization. When Li Shimin took the throne, he was not only a remarkable warrior but also a ruler with vision and compassion. Taizong understood that maintaining an empire required not only soldiers but also a loyal and intelligent bureaucracy. Thus, he established the imperial examination system to recruit talents from across the nation, creating a government based on genuine capability, not lineage or social status but on talent and effort. During Taizong's reign, Chang'an, the capital of the Tang dynasty, became the center of the world, attracting merchants, poets, and scholars from distant lands such as the western regions, Persia, and India, who brought with them ideas, stories, and dreams of a new world. Under Taizong's rule, the nation achieved a harmonious balance between civil and military affairs, tradition and modernization. He was not only powerful on the battlefield but also a shrewd ruler in dealing with surrounding tribes and kingdoms. Kingdoms in the western regions and even far southern dynasties had to bow before the prestige of the Tang dynasty. Through conquests and deft diplomacy, Taizong expanded China's borders, transforming it into an empire mighty not only in weaponry but also in culture and religion. Travelers from neighboring lands and distant India came to China, bringing Buddhism, strange tales, and moral teachings from mysterious lands. Under Taizong's patronage, Buddhism flourished, becoming a crucial part of the people's spiritual life and a cultural bridge between China and neighboring countries. With his talent and intellect, Taizong built an empire renowned not only for its military prowess, but also as a major cultural and intellectual center of the world. After Taizong's passing, the values he left behind continued to be upheld by his successors, propelling the Tang dynasty to its most radiant era under Emperor Xuanzong. Xuanzong was not only a skilled ruler but also a lover of art, culture, and poetry. His reign brought a whole new face to the Tang dynasty, an era where culture, poetry, and art flourished to an unprecedented level in history. Yet, as is often the case in history, when an empire reaches its peak, the seeds of decline begin to emerge. In the shadows of grand palaces, schemes and desires started to kindle. It was a time when the Tang court, basked in glorious light, faced new challenges from the ambitions of local warlords, the rise of distant militarists, and the simmering discontent within the populace. The golden age of the Tang began to crack, leading to the bloody rebellion of Lushan, which ultimately plunged the entire dynasty into the turmoil of war and chaos. History continues to record, but the glorious days of the Tang Dynasty gradually faded into the past, leaving an indelible mark on the memory of humankind. And generations hence, when people recall the Tang Dynasty, they cannot help but marvel at a mighty empire that once shone as bright as the sun, only to be swept away into the night of time and history. However, the Tang's legacy, the values it bestowed upon humanity, will endure, continuing to illuminate future generations on their path toward civilization and understanding of human existence. Under the radiant sunshine of a new dynasty, when Emperor Gaozu Li Yuan of Tang first ascended the throne, no one could have imagined that the Tang would become one of the most glorious dynasties in Chinese history. However, as with any empire in history, the Tang's rise was not paved with roses but fraught with dangers and schemes. From the moment Li Yuan began his quest for power, he faced formidable challenges from rebellious armies and local powers who had grown accustomed to autonomy during the final days of the Sui dynasty. But Li Yuan was a determined and resilient man, skilled not only in battle but with an open heart capable of winning the people's loyalty. From the very beginning, he set a vision for the country, not merely to stabilize but to prosper. With initial stability, Li Yuan gradually established new political and economic systems. The Tang land distribution system, under which land was fairly allocated to households, not only ensured food security but also enabled the court to monitor population and labor resources. Alongside this, he reformed the administrative system, laying the foundation for a centralized yet flexible government. The nation began to regain order, and the people felt the relief of reduced tax burdens, alleviating the oppression they had endured under the Sui. These steps laid the foundation for Li Yuan's hope for the future. But his time was running out. As age crept upon him, he decided to pass the throne to his son, Li Shimin, whom he trusted would lead the Tang further. When Li Shimin took the throne, he did not disappoint his father. He quickly set about reforming and consolidating the imperial power and building a professional military, with a fierce resolve and dedication to his national ideals. Shimin expanded the empire's borders, not only securing the frontiers but also launching military campaigns westward to control vital trade routes and extend Tang influence. But Shimin was not a ruler who relied solely on force. Well-versed in Confucianism, he placed great value on education. He established the imperial examination system, opening opportunities for people of all social classes to enter the civil service. This policy not only helped the court attract talented individuals, but also reduced class conflicts and divisions. Emperor Taizong Shimin not only built a loyal, capable team of officials but also inspired the entire nation, fostering a belief in a fair and strong dynasty. Under Taizong's rule, the country experienced unprecedented prosperity, and Chang'an became the largest city in the world at that time, a bustling center of culture and trade. This city was not only a residence for nobles and officials, but also an international cultural hub, where merchants from the western regions, Persia, India, and even the distant Mediterranean came to trade and exchange ideas. Its bustling markets, grand temples, and magnificent palaces symbolized the Tang's prosperity and glory. With an open diplomatic policy, the Tang not only fostered diplomatic relations with neighboring countries, but also attracted hundreds of envoys, scholars, and artisans from around the world. Buddhism spread widely, not only through large religious structures but also through missionary activities and the translation of scriptures. Under Taizong's hand, China was no longer a closed nation but an empire with far-reaching cultural influence. The Tang's golden age did not end with Taizong but continued under Emperor Xuanzong Lilongji. While Taizong was a strategic and far-sighted ruler, Xuanzong was renowned for his love of arts and cultural promotion. He patronized and developed various forms of art, from poetry and painting to music. During his reign, Tang culture reached its zenith, with the emergence of timeless poems and exquisite ink paintings. Tang poetry became a symbol of Chinese artistic excellence, with works by Li Bai, Du Fu, and Bai Jui inspiring not only in China but throughout East Asia. Xuanzong also promoted Buddhism, building many grand temples and supporting monks from India and Central Asia, creating a rich and diverse religious environment. However, as the dynasty's glory reached its peak, seeds of decline began to appear. In the shadows of the palace, schemes and greed gradually spread. The Tang court began to fracture under competing forces. Local officials and lords grew stronger and no longer displayed absolute loyalty to the emperor. This disintegration reached its height in the Enlushan Rebellion. Enlushan, a talented but ambitious general, rose against the court, triggering a prolonged and brutal conflict. The rebellion not only weakened the court but also inflicted great damage on the economy and people's lives. The prolonged battle between Enlushan and the court drained many resources, diminishing the Tang's military strength. After the rebellion, the court could no longer control local lords and military commanders. Regional generals gradually became autonomous, each building their own forces and ruling vast lands beyond the reach of the court. The court became merely a symbol of power, while in reality, the country was fragmented and governed by military warlords. Ultimately, economic decline and weakened authority led the Tang to fall into ruin. The dynasty's final years were marked by chaos. As peasant uprisings frequently erupted, lords vied for power, and the court struggled to maintain unity. The final images of the Tang are of an empire that was once great but now only a shadow of its former glory. In 907, the Tang dynasty officially collapsed, giving way to the 5 dynasties and 10 kingdoms period, when China was divided into smaller kingdoms, each ruled by a general or warlord. But though the Tang had passed, the values it left behind remained forever in history and in the hearts of the Chinese people. The poems, paintings, and architectural works of the Tang became invaluable cultural legacies, serving as an endless source of inspiration for future generations. The Tang dynasty taught humanity a profound lesson on the rise and fall of empires, how a dynasty could rise from ashes, reach dazzling heights, yet fade like a fleeting dream. What remains of the Tang is not only its physical relics but also a deep cultural spirit and a rich intellectual legacy that contributed to the identity of China and the entire East Asian civilization. The Tang dynasty has faded into the currents of history, yet the marks it left remain indelible. From the magnificent architectural remnants to the immortal poems of Li Bai and Du Fu, and the ink paintings steeped in the soul of Chinese countryside, all of these still seem to carry the breath of a glorious era. The Tang was not just an empire of power and territory, but a symbol of creativity, tolerance, and cultural exchange with the world. When people mention this dynasty, they are not only recalling an era of imperial rule but also celebrating a pinnacle of culture and art, one of the most radiant golden chapters in the history of China and human civilization. Though the Tang dynasty went through cycles of prosperity and decline and ultimately faded like a lamp running out of oil, the values it contributed live on in the minds of later generations. The spread of Buddhism, advancements in science and technology, the civil service examination system that opened doors to the talented, and especially its spirit of openness and thirst for knowledge, have become an invaluable spiritual legacy. This heritage exists not only within Chinese culture but also extended its influence to neighboring countries like Japan, Korea, and Vietnam, helping shape a richly distinctive and vibrant East Asian civilization. The Tang dynasty may have passed, but what it left behind has never faded. The winds of that era still blow through books, paintings, and surviving structures, telling the story of a dynasty that reached the peak of human achievement. And each time people read Tang poetry, admire ancient paintings, or quietly gaze upon relics from that time, they can still feel the glow of the Tang, a dynasty that once shone like the sun in the sky of history and will forever live in the hearts of humanity as an eternal symbol of culture and creative spirit.